The foghorns are blowing like crazy out there, so you might hear those going off in the video every once in a while. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, which you can find at You Guys Let Me Know, you'll probably hear those foghorns in the background. That's going on. So, cool. It's nice to see so many of you here so quickly. And I've never done a scheduling of a live stream before, and so kind of wanted to see what that was going to be like and see how many people might be here. So that's pretty cool. Hey, right on. All-nighters here. A search party had been sent. What does that say? A search party had been sent, but we lost the search party. Right on. All right. There's all kinds of comments up in here. Hey, and a super chat already. What does the super chat say? Jason, thank you so much for that. The Bank of Canada raised by 0.5% instead of the expected 0.75% last week. Does this signal capitulation and potential pause in the pivot on rates? Maybe in Canada, but Canada, didn't they start earlier too? Like they have already been on the rise for a while. So, I mean, it would kind of make sense that they would be backing off early since I think they were started a little earlier than the United States as well. So I don't know if that's necessarily like a sign of a pivot going on in the United States yet. I mean, eventually the United States will pivot, but I just don't think it's quite there yet. But I mean, I guess it is, since they were an early sign, that it might be a sign that things are happening. I mean, China was the first one to raise rates as well, and then pivot, if you call it that, Anyway, let's see. What did I want to talk about? Good news is bad news, right? Anytime there is bad news out there, thinking that the Federal Reserve is going to reverse their stance on raising interest rates, or however you want to put it, their tight money policies, it sends the market higher. Like, the market loves bad news. And I love this because this has been going on for quite some time, because when there's bad news out there, they think that the Fed is going to reverse course. That drops interest rates. That means like stimulating the economy, and everybody's like, getting high again, because it's like getting an injection of drugs, like anything else out there. So that's what I find interesting about the markets right now and their perceptions of it. Like, they are so addicted to hopium out there. Like, anytime they ever hear bad news, that means the Fed's going to pivot, and into the rallies they go. I think it's like Peter Schiff who mentions it quite a bit, that some of the biggest rallies happen during a bear market. So I wouldn't be like too excited about, like, say, a reversal in the markets or the Fed's behavior or anything like that. I mean, they promised us pain, and pain they will give us, and it will soon be here. I mean, hey, right on, Lumberjack Landlord. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. But the pain is coming. The pain hasn't arrived yet. We are just merely starting to feel it. Now, I have said many times that I don't believe that the Fed is going to get much more beyond the 2.5% on the Fed funds rate before it really starts to impact the economy. And I'm still sticking to that, because right now we are just starting to feel the effects of a 2.5% Fed funds rate in the economy, because it takes 6 months to a year before we actually feel the effects of it. Now, they have the rates up, what close to 3.5%, 4%, wherever they're getting into. I mean, especially on this next one that they're rising, I think is what they're going to take it to, 4%. That is going to take 6 months to a year to really impact the economy. So in 6 months from now, what we are going to feel is some intense pain, and they are going to reverse course. I'm sure of it, right? Everybody says it, that we're going to be in a recession by the beginning of the year. Now, I'm not trying to predict the recession coming in the beginning of the year. I'm just saying that's what a lot of people are saying out there, and it really does line up with, like, say, what's going to be impacting the economy from the Fed funds rate, considering that the economy is right now feeling neutral, right? That's feeling the effects of a neutral rate. And it'll be neutral for the next 6 months, or so, maybe not quite that long. But after that, it's going to be restricting economy, and it's going to be very restrictive considering what we are experiencing right now. It's going to be like painful, and that's what the Fed is looking for before they reverse course. Anyway, let's go back up to Matthew's question there. Give this man a super chat and a thumbs up for all the work he's putting in for the people. Thank you so much, Matthew, man. I really appreciate that. You've really been supportive of this channel, and I could tell you, it's like, you guys are just awesome. I mean, it just encourages me to try and come out here and just do more, and try and, put out these ideas and opinions and theories so we can have this discussion and try and figure out what it is that we need to do with our lives. Because You know, I tell you, when somebody is like, I love it when somebody says, I wouldn't take advice from somebody in a broken down Toyota with, and I wouldn't take advice from me either. I'm not trying to give advice. I'm just trying to give my opinion so you can figure out what you need to do. How much weight is there about this charter about 25 days supply of diesel left? Or this chatter, sorry. I don't know. I mean, like, I wish I knew more or had somebody who was like an insider into like the oil industry, into like that kind of aspect of stuff, who can give me a little bit better perspective on what a 25-day supply of diesel really means. And, you know, if that's like, you know, something that is like panic mode. I mean, is it to a point that, you know, there is no return from this? Or is that just something that, you know, is occurring right now, but isn't something to be too concerned about, considering like things that are happening in the LNG market, the liquid natural gas. I mean, I was reading articles about how prices on that have gone negative in some areas, and that's incredible to think about, you know, because man, I'm talking fast today, aren't I? I need to slow down. If you think about, if you think about, anytime there's high prices out there, like the answer to high prices, right, is going to be high prices. It's going to be the people stopping the purchasing of that stuff, and then people wanting to take advantage of those high prices. High prices will cure itself, right? Because of the demand for it and for the production of it. So eventually, what you end up seeing when you have these ultra high prices is you see a reversal to the extreme of the other direction. And that's what I feel has happened in a lot of cases. And, you know, a lot of people don't think about that scenario all the way back. Like, you can find many examples of it throughout history. I mean, a lot of people, you know, have their blame on the Great Depression for whatever it is. I take it back to a farming issue. It was an overproduction of farming, that people were taking advantage of high food prices after Europe had been gone through with a major war, and all the farmers were fighters and not having a good farm production. It took years to reestablish that, and the United States was benefiting greatly off of that. When these farmers were making a lot of money, people wanted to expand their farms. They took out a lot of loans to do this, and they started producing a lot of food. Well, eventually the food demand dropped off dramatically, and the United States couldn't pay those debts anymore, or the farmers couldn't, and then on into depression they went. Now, people might disagree with that, whatever. I mean, that was, you know, all that stuff kind of happened, right? So why would you, you know, I mean, you can figure out other ways. They can say that there was bank manipulations and stuff like that happening, but whatever. I mean, people make their own decisions when it comes to making a debt, right? Taking out a debt. Let's see. Joseph, thank you so much for the $5. How will the railroad strike expected to begin on November 19th affect lumber? It's going to affect it big time. And that's actually one of the, in yesterday's lumber report, they actually mentioned that. I got it right here. That one of the major concerns was both mill curtailments. Let me see, what was that? The dynamics in front of us are rail disruptions and mill closures. And so, yeah, like that's what I said, like, after the lumber prices fall and the beginning of winter starts, I don't know where prices are going to go from here. I am suspecting that by the new year, we are going to start seeing higher prices. What happens in the economy between now and then? I mean, there's so many things. I mean, it's hard to predict that. People say, well, 6 months ago you said this. Yeah, but, you know, so many things change. So making predictions is only off of, you know, the idea that things don't change, right? But things always change. So your predictions have to change along with the changing environment. You know, so, but I was fairly accurate, I think, on calling the lumber. I mean, if you go back and look at the Rebel Capitalist event that took place in Miami over the summer, I was asked the question about where lumber prices were going to go by Ken McElroy, and I tell you, I think I nailed it pretty accurately. I said that they were going to be down throughout the summer, and then coming into winter, we're going to see the inventory tighten up and prices are going to start to increase. And that's what we experienced, low prices throughout most of the end of summer. And then here we are coming into tighter inventory with the idea that there's going to be rail closures and mill curtailment. So what happens by the new year? I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm telling people to get their lumber now. Like, I wouldn't hesitate on it. You know? All right. Any books you recommend for me to dive deeper into economics? I've read 2 books on economics. Or not even a book. I read Cantillon's essay on economic theory, which you can find that online. The Mises Institute has, I think several links to it. And then The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Those are the only two books I've ever read on economics. So those are the only two that I can ever like really recommend to anybody. Now, there's a ton of books that I would love to read, but I'm not much of a reader. And I mean, those who have followed me for any length of time know this, that like I can read for about 10 minutes and then my mind really just starts taking off. I can't follow what's going on the page. Like I'll continue to read, but like the retention is not happening. So getting through a book is very difficult for me. It takes a long time. Like articles are about perfect because I can read an article and get it done and no problem. Even a Fed speech kind of takes me, I need to break it down into like, 3 segments or something in order to grasp most of what's going on in there, because they're kind of complicated to begin with. But that's my problem with books. Like I shouldn't say I can't. I don't read very often because my dedication to reading is not as much as I wish it was, right? And so that's, I guess. So those two books, those two things. Read Cantillon's essay on economic theory and The Creature from Jekyll Island. All right, big fan of your stuff. I see some people saying they think the Fed will pivot due to the election cycle. What are your thoughts on the Fed responding to political pressures on the election cycle? I don't think the Fed can give a care about what's going on politically. I have not followed politics in years. I gave up on it, and I only follow what the Federal Reserve, the banking, interest rates, mortgage rates, what people's perceptions are, what their banking habits are. I mean, this is the thing that I follow. I do not follow politics. They are... I'm sorry, but I find them a complete waste of time. I do not give Biden my time ever. I don't think I've ever heard anything that has ever come from that guy's mouth. I cannot repeat anything that he has ever said. I don't know, right? People are like, well, he did this and he's doing that, whatever. I don't need to follow what he is doing to figure out what I need to do with my money, because what they are doing is completely confusing to anything that is economics. I mean, there has never been a time that I was more confused about economics than I was when I was diving deepest into politics. And when I gave up on that, when Ron Paul was blackballed out of the Republican Party, I gave up. I said, that's it, I'm done. Right? You guys you're done. I'm not wasting my time with this anymore. And I just started focusing in on the money, and that's it. That's all I do. I don't care what happens politically, because ultimately, read Cantillon's essay and you'll understand why. Because he says it right up in there. There's really, I mean, they have like this presence that everybody says, oh, look at them, right? But it's not them doing it. It's the economy that gives them the ability to do what they are doing. And it's us who is the economy. We are making that happen. And so politics is a result of the economy, right? The economy isn't a result of politics. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's things that happen politically that can affect the economy. No doubt about it. But the things that are happening within the economy gives the politicians the ability to do what it is that they're doing. All right. Airlines, energy, grocery chains. I guess. Oh, I see. Lumberjack landlord's talking to somebody. Do you think we'll see 10% interest rates on 30-year fixed? Maybe. I mean, we're not too far from it now. But that's, I mean, I have to think, like right now, you already see it, like the 8% on a mortgage is like incredibly high. Like, I mean, I don't think it's quite that high yet. Is it? It's like 7.5 or something, 7.5. That's incredible. That's like incredibly high. And you have to think, there's somebody on the other side of that who is collecting the interest rate. And there's a demand for that out there. Now, granted, a lot of people are concerned about toxic mortgages, right? Where you buy these mortgage-backed securities and they turn toxic, where they're not worth what they say they are. How many people out there right now are in that position where they are going to turn toxic mortgage, or like these, mortgages would turn toxic? That's what I have to ask. Because before, like Lumberjack Landlord goes into this deeply. Like if you watch his channel, he'll tell you all about it. But if you go and you look, like the criteria that you need in order to get a loan right now is much, much tougher than it ever was, right? Or I shouldn't say ever was. There's probably times in history that it was tough, but than it was during, say, prior to the great financial crisis, where they were just like, basically handing anybody a loan. I think about the loan that I got. Like, I switched jobs like 2 weeks before I got my loan. They were like, well, whatever, it happens, right? I mean, they didn't, like, before, I guess there would have time, they would have been like, you switch jobs, you got to start over again. But, there was like, getting a loan was easy back in 2007. And it didn't take like a whole lot. Like, anybody could get one. You didn't have to prove anything. It was just basically handing out to everybody. That's not the case now. So toxic mortgages aren't really necessarily the case. So the investor who is buying into the mortgages, like those mortgage-backed securities, is going to look at those higher interest rates and go like, man, that's it. That's my ticket. That's where I'm in. This is my fixed income investment that I'm going for. And I like that price, right? I like the low price and the yield that it is paying, and I'm going to get in. And at that point, there's a support for the mortgage market. Where that is, I mean, is it 8%? Is it 10%? Are people so fearful that it's going to get up to 15% before they start getting in? I don't know. Like, that's the question that I really have to ask. And I don't know if you really follow like where that value is that I'm not an investor, right? So I don't know. I'm learning this for myself. But I guess what you would really want to look at is the insurance to cover a mortgage-backed securities, or to cover the mortgage-backed securities, and where the price of that is. Now, one of the things that I like to follow as far as where I think that the crash in the housing market would be represented first or noticed first is if you follow some of the like real estate shorts, like SRS, which is like a multi-real estate short, which is like double whatever the housing market downturns, this thing goes up. So follow that to see like the health of like the insurance market, the mortgage market, where things are. If you start seeing that thing just start skyrocketing, then you know that there's probably some major problems happening within the housing and mortgage industry. But right now it's still fairly low. Like, I mean, like comparatively to what it's been over the last few years. But it is a deteriorating asset that is constantly falling, because it's like paying an insurance premium every single month. So I don't want to get in too deep into that. There's people who know a hell of a lot more about that thing than I do. So I'm not an investor. I don't know. Just got 5.4 on a fix. Not bad. See, yeah, that's pretty good. Dating on. Oh, is there dating? Damn it. Get out of here. Where's Lord Humongous? Get rid of this dating site thing. How do I get out of here? There we go. Hide user on this channel. Alright. Onward. Not sure about mortgage rates, but interest. Oops, what did I say? Interest. The damn arrow's in the way. Interest was above or at 15 in the 80s. Yeah, it was. And that was like, that's something to think about, because when you raise the interest rates like that, what you are doing is you are bringing back the return on capital investment, which is something that Dr. Lacey Hunt talked about for a while. Like, I mean, not for a while, he still talks about it. I haven't listened to him in a while, is what I guess I should have said. But the return on capital investment, you think about it, you put, $100 towards something and you get a decent return on it, then you get to take that return and either reinvest it or go and spend that into the economy. But if your return on capital investment is low or even negative after inflation, then that's not going to stimulate the economy. That's not going to be like something that can effectively be, what can I say, running on its own, What they are doing is, when they drop the interest rates, they are trying to stimulate the economy. So you go and get high and everything's awesome, you feel great, but then, that high wears off because there's really no return on investment from that. It's just the artificial injection of being high, and then what you got to do is you got to get high again. So they keep dropping the interest rate until they got to zero. Now they're like, oh, crap, now what? Raising interest rates right now is very difficult and painful. That's why they're doing it as quickly as possible before it really has a chance to impact the economy. Once they get it up to that 5%, now they have the ammo to drop interest rates and put that perception out there to the people that they can go out there and buy cars and houses and go on vacation and stimulate the economy with the lower interest rates by taking out loans. And I mean, this is really what I feel the Federal Reserve is trying to do, is to push those Fed funds rate up as quickly as possible to get it up to that 5% so they have the ammo back. Right now, we're feeling the impacts of a neutral rate at 2.5% or so from the Fed funds rate. At least that's what I think. Somebody asked me the other day, they were like, I don't think you described the Fed funds rate or the effective funds rate accurately. And they were right, because I don't, because it's very complicated to understand it. See, I used to talk about, well, I don't used to, I still say it. The effective fund rate was established, or used to be established, by the interbank overnight interbank lending, like when the banks at the end of the day would need reserves and some of them had excess reserves, the ones who had excess would lend it to the ones who were in need. That overnight lending rate was the effective fund rate. But they found that back in September of 2019, that got all screwed up and it shot the interest rates up to 10% because some of the banks couldn't find that they didn't find that there was banks out there with enough reserves to lend to them. So this is when the Federal Reserve stepped in with the repo market. I think, honestly, that was a planned event. I really do, because if you go and you look at my video from, gosh, it was probably a year before that. It was called Things Are Changing. And I talked about the repo market in that. I found an article talking, where the Federal Reserve was talking about how they would like to have a standing repo facility. But you can't just have a standing repo facility without an issue to create one, right? So on September of 2019, there was a huge tax payment, corporate tax payment that was given. Well, it was at the same time that there was a lot of government spending taking place. So these big banks, well, they're the primary dealers when it comes to buying U.S. Treasuries at auction. So they were loaded up with a lot of U.S. Treasuries. Now, typically, these big banks, they don't really care if they're holding U.S. Treasuries or dollars because they're essentially the same thing. I mean, a U.S. Treasury is like the most liquid market in the world. You can take your U.S. Treasury and convert it to cash pretty quickly. So a lot of times, banks just look at U.S. Treasuries as cash, and they have a little bit of a return on them, so it's even better, right? But there is times where they actually need cash and not U.S. Treasuries, and that was the problem, is that all this corporate tax payment took the cash out of the big banks and moved it over to the Treasury, the General Treasury account. Did I say that right? Treasury's general account? Anyway, so it's an account at the Federal Reserve that the Treasury has, and all this cash moved over to that account and took it away from the big banks, and now all of a sudden they're stuck with a bunch of treasuries and not enough cash in order to operate the next day. The Federal Reserve stepped up and says, no problem, we got the standing, or not a stand, we have a repo facility. We'll go ahead and open that up. We'll buy those treasuries off of you, hand you cash, and we'll keep doing this on an overnight basis. And that's where the repo facility got its start into permanency, because after that, it became a standing repo facility. Now, the excess reserves that are coming from the big banks, because they have like a zero reserve requirement, I think they call this actually an abundant reserve. Like they don't need to borrow from each other. So they have this excess reserves. They have two places they can go with it, the repo facility, or they can go to the interest on excess reserves that they hold at the Federal Reserve. And this little channel creates the effective fund rate. Okay, did I get that right? Let me know if I got that wrong. Let me know if you understood that. All right. Barge about to explode. No, they're just out there making a bunch of noise. All right. What is the noise I'm hearing? Sounds. I'm right along the river. All right. You can't really see it because there's a bunch of fog, but there's a bunch of barges, not barges, they're actually freighters out there, and they're blasting horns off at each other as they pass by. All right. Let's see here. Gotta learn the tax codes, many things to take advantage of or benefit from. Yeah, it was funny because one of the, like every once in a while, somebody will say something or I'll hear somebody say something and it just locks in. And I remember Robert Kiyosaki getting mad at somebody. It was a long time ago. It was an interview from like 10 years ago or more. And I just remember him saying something about like getting mad at somebody saying, no, the tax code is written for the entrepreneur in this country, right? And he was getting mad at the person saying that if you're not taking advantage of the tax code, then you're like basically dumb. And I still don't understand what the hell he was talking about because I'm no accountant. And anyway, great whiteout background, kind of like the Fed. Fed won't invert the yield curve between the 10-year and the Fed funds. 4% is max for now, more later if bond market says so. Oh yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it, man. That's a great comment, James. Thank you. The captains know want their 15 minutes. No, you're on and they want their 15 minutes. Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny to blast it and then go and listen, see if you can hear it come through? All right. Oh boy, we're about to feel a lot of pain. Yeah. First time commenter, love the content. Well, thank you so much, man. All right. All right, back down to the bottom. You look just like Mike Damon. In Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I refer to you as Spicoli's financial advisor. When are you going to get a job, Spicoli? What for? Because everybody needs money, right? Not me. All I need is some tasty waves, a cool buzz, and I'll be fine. I'm the captain now. Alright. I love the U.S. Let's see. Tax code is a list of incentives for those who decide to pay taxes. Will the Fed be hawkish about future rate hikes or dovish? I think they're going to be hawkish until we feel the pain, right? I mean, until we feel some pain. Like, I don't think we felt pain yet. I think when people start feeling pain and they're actually crying and talking about how they're losing everything they have and their retirements and all that other stuff, I think that's pain. Like, I don't think what they're feeling now is pain. I think what they're feeling now is like a little bit of discomfort. If that, like. Problem is everyone takes advantage of tax code. There would be nobody left to actually produce anything, but they know not everyone will, so it serves its purpose. Yeah. Why did the Bank of England pivot and not the U.S.? Because the U.S. I honestly think that eventually we are all going to find that the manufacturing is going to slow down to an almost grinding halt, like serious. Like the pandemic didn't bring it to a grinding halt as much as I think it's going to come to. And the things that are taking place in China still leads me to believe that, like the manufacturing slowdown that is happening there, the distribution that is happening here, it just really leads me to believe that they are trying to create an economy as diminished as possible so they can tokenize it. I honestly think that that's what they are moving towards, and somehow trying to figure that out by diminishing everything to as small as they can get it. And at some point, people are going to start starving. And when they do, they're going to say, here's your little card. Take this card. It has central bank digital currency on it, and you can go buy food. And that is the way everybody's going to say, thank you very much, government, for saving us from the disaster that has been created here. I will take your central bank digital currency and go buy food, and everybody will get on board. Yeah. Honk back, you. Yeah, I know, because I don't really want the chief. Well, I mean, I guess I could. I mean, I know the chief of police. He lives right there. He'd probably come over and say hi. All right. Just over broke. That's perfect. Yeah. Dogecoin to the moon. Yeah. I bought Dogecoin like in the first couple of months that it had come out. I had like $10 worth of it or something. It was well over 100,000 Dogecoins. Anyway, it was stolen from me from a crooked exchange called Cripsy. Anyway, just one day I couldn't log in anymore, and that was it. They were gone. So, all right. Right on, poor man. I don't know what that is, but all right. What do you think the likelihood of a pivot is looking at SPY? It looks close to where it would have been with standard inflation. I honestly think that they are not going to pivot anytime soon because they are going for a 2% average inflation rate, which is going to keep their interest rates elevated for an extended period of time. That's what I believe. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to occur, but that's what I feel is going to happen. And with that's going to be some painful events. And so those are the two things that I believe is going to happen in order for there to be a pivot, is that they're going to have to feel, some pain in the economy, and that average inflation rate over time, and they don't talk about average inflation. They just talk about their 2% target, whatever. I mean, they don't talk about it as an average inflation. So everybody kind of is still stuck on the old idea that the Federal Reserve is shooting for a 2% target, which meant that if they were above 2%, they would try to bring the inflation down to the 2%. If it was under 2%, they would try to bring it up to 2%. But now they're going to keep interest rates elevated, even though they hit the 2% at some point in the future. They're going to continue to keep it elevated because they're looking for that average inflation over time, which nobody is really considering. Not that I've seen out there. I mean, I hardly read any articles on anybody who has ever mentioned the 2% average inflation after the Federal Reserve had brought it up and then pretty much shut up about it. And so you can actually go back and find the video. It wasn't too long ago, just a couple of weeks that I did. And I left some links down in the description of that video with the Fed's documents talking about how they are now moving from a 2% target to a 2% average. Onward. All right. What percentage of your income do you recommend putting into your retirement account? As much as you can. I don't know. That's I guess it really depends on how much you make and stuff. Like me, I don't have any retirement, so I got to put as much as I can. That's me. Um, so I don't know what you got to do. I was talking to a young man the other day, and I pretty much told him, I was just like, man, at 25 years old, you got time on your side. So if you got time on your side, you have like the best investment opportunity in the world, and that's to take advantage of compounding interest. At 46 years old, I don't really, I mean, by the time the compounding interest really starts to kick in, I'll be dead. What do I care about it, right? So if I'm doing something for my kids, that's one thing. But it's for me personally, my retirement is going to take something like expanding this YouTube channel, writing a book, writing a something, doing something big, ended up with like investments that really do well. I'm going to have to do something that's kind of extreme. I can't just take the easy path. Like most kids don't realize how awesome of an opportunity they have by being young. Like 18 years old, and you have a job where you can actually save some money, if you can save that money and start putting it towards an investment that has a compounding interest to it that you can, just kind of forget about even during the bad times when it's not doing well or takes a hit or whatever, you just kind of forget about it and just let it go. You can pretty much be a dumb shit your whole life as long as you just kind of put that money towards that path. At the end of the road, you did it. Like you will probably have a pretty decent life, right? So I'm not saying like that's a guarantee because everything, pensions fail or whatever happens, I mean, I'm not saying those things don't occur, but if you get that fear to not have that fear, that's like a pretty easy path. And most people don't get to take advantage of something like that because they just either don't know to do it or they weren't encouraged to do it, or, they spent their time partying or something like I did, All right. Liquidity is king, but the basics are essential, regardless of the economy. You know, and that's really like, hey, thank you, 345 Farm. Appreciate your thoughts on things. That's what he says there. I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, you know, uh, I forgot what I was just gonna say. What did I read down there? Liquidity is king, but the basics are essential, regardless of the economy. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. It's just like, you know, being broke most of your life really gives you a good perspective on when things are becoming like when you get stable all of a sudden where you're like, okay, man, they're just going off. So many of them. When you're broke your whole life and then all of a sudden you find yourself stable, like you have an emergency fund built, and you find where you can actually do some investments and you can enjoy your money a little bit more, like actually entertain yourself with it, which is something that I was always like find very difficult for me to do, is to actually have fun with my money or something like that. Seemed like a waste of it, but it's important to like enjoy your life and stuff like that. So like the essentials, that's really what was important to me. It's the only thing that's really important to me, making sure that I have electricity and the house is paid and that we have food and the tanks are full and the gas for the cars. And then after that, like I don't really get excited about things. It's like, cool, all right, what else needs to be stable? Like, because that was my life, that was the concern of my life, because I never really had, well, growing up I had it. My dad was in the military and we lived a fairly comfortable life, but when I got out on my own, like, I mean, it was feast or famine. Either I was making a lot of money doing construction or I was broke as hell because I couldn't find a job. I mean, you get into some pretty tough situations, and then when it got bad and you start drinking and you get in depression and all that other stuff, man, then it gets really bad. So when you find yourself stable, that's the only thing that's important is the essentials. After that, it's like all those fancy things and all that. Like I joke around about the Camaro, but I would have a very difficult time going out and buying a $67,000 Camaro, even if I had $2 million. Like, I am not the type of person who's going to go off and do that. Like, I have nobody to impress. If I had that, I would love it. Like, I would feel awesome driving around in a brand new Camaro, but I would also feel like, God, I can't believe how much damn money you spent on this thing, dude. It's like you have an S10, you have a car, you get into work. What else do you need? Because those are the essentials, and that's really all that matters. All right, treat yourself, yeah, and I know, right? Get the Camaro, make sure it's the S, make sure it's a SS or ZL1. I totally agree, and I will. Like, I mean, you put it in your head, you think positively about it. If I really want to write a book, like I really do, but I have a hard time reading books, so I think like, how the hell am I going to write a book if I can't even read a book? So I'm going to write a book. I will. And I think with you guys out there, you probably would buy the book and you would buy it for all your friends and tell all your friends about it, and it would be a popular book. And that's how I'm going to buy the Camaro, is I'm going to sell books to do it. So if I could put that goal in my mind, then not only do I finally get that damn book written that I've been promising you for like years, but then I would also get the Camaro from it too, right? So that's kind of like the reward for getting it done. So maybe that's something I'll work on this winter, try and get that thing done, and maybe next summer we'll be doing Uneducated Economist from a Camaro. Does that sound good? Link up with the dealer and go get it at auction. Oh, yeah, that's a thought. YouTube is paying for it. Lots. Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, but they're also going to be paying for my retirement, my life, and all that other stuff. You got to remember, guys, like, 7 years ago, I had nothing. Like, people were like, "Oh yeah, man, I was broke at one time in my life." Like, I had nothing, man. No broken down car. I had broken down cars, shitty furniture, clothes, like nothing, man. Like, I mean, you could take all my material possessions, set them on fire, and I'd be like, like, oh well, it's like that wasn't that much stuff. And I'm still like, even now, like, I really don't have a whole lot. Like, I have nice stuff at the house. Like, I got. Like, I like drinking coffee, so I have like a nice espresso machine, and which actually was a gift. Now that I think about it, jeez, I really don't buy anything. Got the TV. That's what I did. I bought that giant TV for the kids. Robert is telling people to get educated. As long as the Camaro has the dice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The dice will always be with me. I can't give those things up now. Just release it on PDF and ask for donations. I'd gladly donate. It'd be a great start. Also would be a great way to get yourself out there. No, that is a good idea. Maybe I can, because I was thinking the way that I wanted to write it would be definitely be in chapters and segments. So maybe I could like release like chapters of it, to help kind of get me motivated to actually writing a full book or something like that. Anyway, something to think about. All right. And I know you guys have just been begging for it. I'd buy the book for $20, find 3,000 more people like myself, and you have a dream car, sir. Yeah, I think I agree with you, man. Those who can get creative in lowering their expenses and saving dollars will be able to come out the other side of a decade-long recession with fortified investments and assets. I really agree with that. That is a really good actual comment right there. I'm sorry, that's actually a really good. Wow, I need to slow down. I shouldn't have bought the coffee. That is an excellent That was a great comment. Thank you, Billy. That's really where the case is right now. And I think that a lot of people are finding themselves that during the, idea of this hyperinflation scenario coming, they spent all their money. They're like getting out of the dollar and taking on debt because they thought that they would be able to hyperinflate their debt away. Well, now they're caught in a debt trap. And as the dollar got stronger, they find themselves in a very bad spot. That's why you're seeing the savings rates dropping as much as it has. I really need to catch up on George Gammon. He has a couple of videos out there that I saw come across my feed that look really interesting. One of them was that savings rate one, which the article I leave down in the description wasn't too bad. And even though it's an MSN article, I'm not a real fan of that particular outfit, but the article was okay. And then what was the other one that I saw pop up on George's? He had a couple of them. Janet Yellen talking about how she's talking about MMT and the savings, something else. But anyway, I got to catch up on George. George is good stuff. Yeah, he has been killing it. All right, where are we at here? Not your problem. Thank you so much for the $5. I always had the lifestyle creep issue. I would earn more but spend more until I got married and got a kid. I changed my priorities. Saving is number one. Yeah, And I think that's what did it for me too, is that I really had horrible saving habits back in the day. Like I made, fairly decent money doing construction. I'd just go and blast beer down all night. And, after the kid was born, I really like kind of got out of the idea of partying and doing all that. And I really didn't have much money anyway, but it wasn't so much partying, it was just the drinking of alcohol in itself. Because I didn't really hang out at the bars anymore and stuff like that. It really just kind of got down to like, for me, it was like a depression thing. But really, I didn't spend my money on anything else other than what I needed to, and then towards the end there, a lot of alcohol. After I got out of that, saving was easy. Like, you quit alcohol, you can actually save pretty quickly, especially if you're making your bills and you don't really have anything going on. You give up alcohol, you'll be amazed on how much money you save. Cigarettes too. I mean, those two things will like zap all your income. And so all of a sudden, here you have this way of being able to pay off debts, and that's what I did. Like, so if I had $20, instead of going and buying beer, I would go down and pay my debts off. And then the next thing you know, your debts are paid off, and then savings becomes really easy after that. For me, it was like the idea of, what do I do now? Like, how do I, figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do at this point? Do I invest? Do I start taking care of like other things that are going on in my life that I need to take care of? And I mean, I realized that being broke and poor had a totally different mindset than once you have established and have like that stable life. Pretty soon you're not looking at things the same way. It's weird. It's like you shift when you're in a survival mode most of your adult life. You don't know what it's like to not be in a survival mode. Like, you're looking for the survival mode. You're like, why? Like, where is it? Why can't I figure that part out? There's got to be a problem somewhere that we need to solve, or there's an issue that's about ready to take place. There's something up. It can't just be like an even plane right now. That doesn't exist, right? But then you realize, no, it does exist, and that things can be normal, and that things can just be no problems. And it's like hard to imagine that, because I've never really, you never really had that. You always had some debt collector or some issue or some broken down car or some pissed off boss or something, right? But you can achieve a level in your life where none of that stuff exists, and it's very unfamiliar and not necessarily even comfortable. It's like you have a problem with it almost. That's what I'm learning to deal with, which is strange. Robert Shields Jr., thank you so much for the $1.99. If only they tried to fix the supply chain problems. They don't want to fix the supply chain problems. They want to keep the interest rates elevated. They want to get the Fed funds rate up to 5%. If they wanted to fix the supply chain problem, they wouldn't have broken it down in the first place. Right? They broke it down so they could create an issue that they could solve. It was a problem reaction solution. And I mean, it's pretty obvious now when you look at all the vaccination rates that just fail. Like, everybody who got vaccinated got sick, and I don't give a shit what anybody says about like, oh, well, it lowered the hospital rates. I don't, whatever. I mean, I'm not believing any of this stuff anymore. I don't really care about any of that stuff. The only thing I care about is the fact that they severed the supply chain, told everybody to go home and don't pay your rent, and that's what I care about. No incentive to lower prices. No incentives. Oh, that's what it is. To lower prices. Competition will do it. Like, I was reading somebody talking about price gouging and how it gave all these corporations the ability to price gouge, and that's what they're doing. They're just making this over exuberant amount of money or something like that, because of how everybody would just fell for the inflation scenario, and they are just killing it, right? That's like, somebody said they did a deep dive into this study. And so, I mean, okay, I don't doubt that there was price gouging taking place. That can't last. I don't care what anybody says. Price gouging is a very limited thing that can take place, because competition will force it back down. The moment that you have somebody else who says, I have a lower price, and I can still profit, then there's somebody else who's going to say I have a lower price and can still profit. And that's going to continue down until eventually somebody says, I ain't selling at that price anymore. Then the price gouge is over. But when you have a limited supply, when you have limited availability, you know, it's just like just for a small example of that, I remember one time a guy calls me up. He was just like, hey man, do you have this, blah, 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 you have this particular beam? And I said, yeah, I got that beam. I got it. And he was like, oh man, that is so awesome. You're the only person in town who has that beam. And I'm like, only person you say in town? No kidding. He says, well, how much is it? I was just like, well, you wouldn't believe what the price is now, you know, joking around with them. I just charged them a regular price, but that's the type of thing, right? He just called all over the place. Ain't nobody got it. I got it. I got number one. Guess how much you won't pay for it, right? Because there's a limited supply of it. But if everybody in town had one, there was no way that I would be able to price gouge that thing. Even if I called everybody up and said, hey man, charge more for your beam so I could charge more for mine. Like, hey, they'd be like, okay man, yeah, go for it. Hey, come on down and get my beam, man. I'm going to charge less. That's the way it would work, right? Price gouging doesn't work. It only lasts for a limited time while the limited supply is available. All right. Side my garden shed quote 66 44 27, right? See how far? I mean, the price comes down quickly when, like, I mean, a 2x4 used to sell for $13.50. Now it's $4. A sheet of plywood used to be $80. Now it's $30. I mean, if you go with 4-ply, it's $24. That's my prices. There's other places who are quoting it cheaper. All right, Robert, thanks again for the $1.99. Did you hear we only have 20 days left of diesel? Yeah, people keep mentioning this. And like I said, I would love to dive into this, but I really just don't know much about the oil industry enough to say, what does this mean? Like, do we really only have like 20 days and then everything's over? Or is there like 20 days is like enough of a cushion that we can recover from, or there is no recovery from this? What does that really mean? Like, I don't know enough about that. And the propaganda out there is probably pretty extreme. So I mean, if it had any... If I knew anybody in the oil industry, even worked at a gas station, I would like have some kind of like information, but I just don't really know other than it doesn't seem like much, right? It doesn't seem like a very long time. Basically extortion. What do you do when the mattress is full? I don't keep cash. Like, I keep enough cash to like go and hang out for the weekends, but most of my money is in the bank. In fact, all my money's in the bank. I keep it in separate bank accounts from different banks, but I keep my money in the bank because at some point, if there is a downturn in the housing market, like a significant one, then I want to be in a position in which that I could take advantage of that downturn and buy into rental properties or do something like that. And you're going to want to have cash sitting somewhere that is not question why it's there, right? You know, if you have it in the bank, then the bank doesn't question it. So that's why I keep it there. Now, should I be worried about bank runs and stuff? Well, probably. I mean, bank runs happen, but I just don't see that taking place here in the United States, not at this time. Does it occur? It does. And is it something to be concerned about? You bet. But I'm not. And as far as like how many times I've seen like credible YouTubers out there say, get your money out of the bank now before this is too late, or blah, blah, blah. You know, and then it's just like, and nothing happens, right? The banks don't shut down. Nobody loses their money. Everything continues on. So I don't get paranoid like that. And I'm not like, my concern level for not being able to get my money back out of the bank is far less than my excitement to try and buy into rental properties into the future. Is that right? Like if you put it on a balance, you know? I'm worried about inflation if your cash is in a mattress or the bank. I'm not worried about inflation. Like I'm not worried about inflation. Like, I mean, everybody's so stuck on like, you know, things are gonna like inflate away. And I'm not worried about that. What I'm like looking forward to is a strong dollar and a buying opportunity, and you need to be in cash for that. If you're worried about inflation, then that means you're going to get out of cash. And so I think about like the position that people have taken. They've gotten themselves into an extreme amount of debt, and they've gotten themselves out of cash, and we're about ready to head into a recession. That is not a good place to be. What you want to be is out of debt and loads of cash and very minimal bills, right? That's the way you want to be when you go into a recession, and nobody took that position. Everybody thought hyperinflation and took the hyperinflation position. And not to disagree with that, like, I mean, I shouldn't disagree with that position. I mean, if that's what you believe is going to happen, I shouldn't tell you don't do it. Like, you do that, man. I mean, you take the gold and silver position or get out of cash position or do whatever it is, because, I mean, if that's what you feel is right. I mean, I don't buy gold and silver to try and protect myself from inflation. I did at one time. I used to buy a lot of it for that reason. It didn't work for me, and I got very frustrated with the idea of it. However, it ended up working out so superbly as an insurance policy that that's what it ended up being for me, and that's what I consider it. So if you want to protect yourself from inflation with silver, or if you think of it as an insurance policy, it doesn't really matter. We both buy silver at the end of the day, right? Ordinary Bitcoin. Thank you so much for the $1.99. What is your conviction on Bitcoin versus gold now? I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't really see these two things as the same thing. I mean, as far as Bitcoin versus gold, I mean, I see them both being very similar in a fashion and very different. I mean, both of them are awesome for being outside of the system, right? Anything that's outside of the system, I'm cool with, no matter what it is. So if you can do a transaction where, I don't care if the government can see it or not, but if they have no way of stopping you from doing it, I'm on board. Gold, there is nothing else quite like it, right? It's completely removed from the system. There is no third-party claim at all anywhere, right? So having gold in your possession is different than having Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a computer entry. If you don't have electricity, you don't have a device, you don't have something, you don't have anything. At least if you have gold, you have something physical in your hand, right? And you get to be the protector of it. Now, you want to cross a border and you can remember a private key, 64 digits? Think about that. You can put all your money in your head, go to jail, have everything stolen from you, travel cross borders. Doesn't matter, right? If you could remember that, you can keep all your money locked up in your head. There's nothing else in the world that can quite do that. I mean, there's some awesome things about both of these things, and I don't really disagree with either one of them, and I don't think one is better than the other. Now, if you do want one on top of the other, like say, hey, one's better, well, this is what it comes down to. Gold exists no matter what. And in fact, Bitcoin cannot exist without gold. The electrical grid, the internet, everything else, it relies on precious metals, silver and gold. And without gold, you can't have Bitcoin. So therefore, gold wins at the end of the day. So if you want one that's the best, it's precious metals by far at the end of the day, right? There's nothing else out there. It's a zero claim to the third party, right? You don't have to worry about an envelope. You don't have to worry about an app. You don't have to worry about an account. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The only thing you have to worry about is being able to protect it. You physically protecting it, right? After that, it's somebody else, right? You're relying on somebody else to take care of business. All right. Bearsworth, thank you so much for the $5. Sorry, off topic. Any advice on quitting drinking and silver? Listen, I'm no therapist, and I am like really, if you want my advice on quitting drinking, what I would do is I would find meetings. I would find AA meetings. They're in every town. Everywhere you go, there's AA meetings out there. And the important part about it is that you can quit cold turkey. That's fine. Like, and people can do it. You can have the power. You can be like, I'm frustrated with life and everything else out there, and I am never going to drink again. And you can give it up right now. Boom. Right? That's what I did. Right? And I gave it up. The only problem with that is that you're going to start dealing with a lot of mental issues, especially if you're a long-time drinker like I was from a younger age, because what all of a sudden happens is that you realize that you have been blocking out a bunch of problems with your alcohol. And if you're not prepared to deal with that, then you're going to start having issues that you're going to Like friends are not going to want to be around. Your life is going to change very dramatically. Now, fortunately for me, my wife was quitting at the exact same time, and she was going to the meetings and doing all that stuff. I thought I was too strong for that stuff or whatever. What I didn't quite realize is that as I was speaking with her about these meetings and things that were going on there and the things that she was discussing and the therapies and stuff like that, is that I was picking up residual, right? I'm not very good at going into talking to a therapist. Like, that's not something that I'm really like into. But I can like study stuff and like read Psychology Today articles and figure things out. And when I started like trying to figure out what it is that was my problems, man, does that not sit well. You don't do well with it. You have to deal with a lot of resent. You have to deal with a lot of issues that start coming up from it. If you go to the meetings, right, they help you with that, right? They explain these things that you were feeling. They explain that you are going to feel them because you are giving up alcohol, like, or anything really. And that you're going to go through all this stuff, right, that you have to deal with. And some people, like, some might feel one thing, another person might feel another, and they're not quite exactly the same, but everybody goes through some sort of form of it, and these guys talk about it and they discuss it. And by doing that, you can actually work your way through this stuff. Trying to like give up anything on your own, especially something of such nature like that, not easy, and most people can't do it. Like, I mean, I don't think I really would have done it on my own if it wasn't to support a family, right? So that's really what my advice would be, is to find meetings and to find people to talk to who are like-minded and understand some of the processes of giving this stuff up and trying to transition back into a normal life again, without that kind of thing going on. Like I said, the heavier a drinker you are, and the longer time it is, the more you have to deal with. It's just unfortunate the way it is. So anyway, that's my advice on quitting drinking. Oh, thank you so much, Makeshift Player, for the $5. Very much appreciate that. AA can save your life. Yeah, I agree with that. Cigarettes and alcohol withdrawal is hard. It is. It's very difficult. I mean, not to turn this stuff into an AA meeting, because I'd rather talk about economics, but I know you guys know that how much I had to go through, and I know how difficult it is for people out there, especially for a lot of guys out there who have worked really hard throughout their life and don't feel like they got what they deserved. Like, there's a lot of us out there who have done that, and it's not something you just sit around and cry about or whatever. You just kind of face up to it and you just move on with your life. But when you start masking over these feelings of regret and resent and stuff like that, when you start covering it up with alcohol, you find that it's difficult to give up alcohol because you don't want to feel that way. You don't want to feel all that crap. And, it's just something once you do it though, you learn that stuff, and you start, that whole idea of like having like, working on yourself, right? Whatever the hell that was supposed to mean. But then understanding what it is to have like a magnetic personality and energy and feeling about yourself and the things that are going on around you, right? Like, once you start feeling that way about yourself, then the positive things and the people that are around you are encouraged to come closer to you. And you start feeling more positive things happening to you. It's very difficult when you're stuck in the cloud, in the fog, in this idea that, I can't get out of this stuff. My life is miserable. I have nobody in my life. I have a shitty job. I don't like where I live. I mean, you got this stuff that is just constantly on you, and I have no way of figuring out how to get out of this stuff, right? And so many people live this life, and they just go on every single day doing this. And that's the path like they seem to have chosen throughout their life, not realizing that if they could just one day just step out there and say, I don't care how miserable I am, I'm going to find something that is fun. And I'm going to go do that today. And I'm going to do that tomorrow again, right? And that's literally all it takes. It's just that mindset that today I'm not going to be a miserable shit. And I'm going to step up and I'm going to do something different. And I'm not going to do what I did yesterday, right? And those are the type of things that really start making you feel good about life, and you start moving on and start doing things. But, when you're stuck in it, when you're in the middle of it, it is so hard to get there. Like, you just don't see life any other way. It's just a miserable life, but it's not. It's just the way you're looking at it. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that might have happened in the past, and there's a lot of stuff that is fearful of the future, But, today you can still go for a walk, right? Sitting on a bench next to that river for 15 minutes is amazing on how well it makes you feel. You don't have to do anything. You just sit there and you just look out at the water for 15 minutes and you step up and you're like, that feels good. That feels really good, right? That's something that's positive in your life. Now what's next? Well, let's go get something that, tastes good, right? Because I want to enjoy, something that tastes good. That's what you do next, right? And you just keep doing that over and over again. And eventually you find yourself like you're actually happy. Very true, sir. My wife and I are going through the process now. Nothing more debilitating and exhausting than having a pessimistic attitude than putting on a positive persona for everyone else. I totally agree. I hate that term, fake it till you make it. I hate it. I hated that term. Fake it till you make it. No, just fake it. And I was just like, I'm not a faker. Like, I don't fake anything. I'm not going to stand around here and fake anything, right? And that's the way I felt, like, a lot of times. And then the people around you, they're just like, yeah, I don't want to be around a faker either because you're a freaking jerk, And so I realized it was just like, man, if I'm not going to fake it, right? That means, like, put on this stupid happy face and pretend to be happy. I'm going neutral. I just won't have anything, right? I won't be happy or sad. I'll be, like, just neutral. And that's the way I'm going to feel. In fact, I'm going to try and be a still water, flat. I'm not going to put my energy out there for anybody to feel. The vibrations coming from me are stagnant. That's the way I'm going to feel. And you find out that people aren't put off by that. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's almost attractive that this person sits over there and they just don't care. They don't care about anything else that's going on. All they care about is just being there with themselves. Right? So if you can't be positive and you don't want to fake it, go neutral. Just be neutral. All right. Bruce Lee. Yep, absolutely. Be water. Right? Shake it till you break it. Happiness is elusive. That's right. Contentment is practical, doable, and occasionally happiness happens. You're right. Happiness is just something that just comes and goes, right? It's just like, at moments you'd be like, wow, man, this is really cool. This is a great movie. This is, a great time out, whatever, There's happiness that happens from that stuff. But happiness doesn't have to be every second of the day. You wake up and it was just like, okay, where's my happiness? Where I got to find this happiness thing, right? It doesn't work like that. So when you are happy, enjoy it. Like, enjoy the happiness while it happens, right? And then it was just like, man, when it finally fades away, it was like, man, that was a really happy time, and I'm going to enjoy that memory. And now I'm going to go back into contentment, right? And be happy with, not happy, just be cool with what it is that you got going on, right? Cool with the 99 Toyota Corolla. Cool with the S10 in case something happens to it, right? Content. I don't need a Camaro to be happy. Although Camaro would make me happy, right? For 10 minutes every day. Foreclosures. Yeah, when we see those on the rise, right? All right, damn, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. And I mean, I get into this stuff. I speak from the heart, when I talk about this stuff. And I'm serious when I say it. I mean, it's a tough road, and I know a lot of people that they would find that their best is in them, that they don't even come close to reaching their potentials of what they have going on in life. I mean, there's so much that's in every single person that they could do, and it's themselves that is holding them. You're holding yourself back, and I mean, I hold myself back on a lot of things. The whole, like, reading issue stuff. Like, I mean, this is like, I can read. There's no reason why I don't read books. Like, I should be reading books, right? There's no reason for it. So, I have to overcome that and start doing these things. But it's literally just little steps on little things every single day. And although the whole life, and if you look at it as a whole, is overwhelming, each individual little part isn't that hard, right? It isn't that hard to shave your face every day, right? Even though I hadn't done it today. But it's not that hard to do that every day. You do that every single day, and actually you feel pretty good for it, right? It's not that hard to, say make sure the dishes are done every day. Right? And in fact, if you put on some kind of video that you look forward to watching every day and you do that during the dishes, you would actually look forward to doing the dishes because you get to watch that video while you're doing it. So these are the type of things that you have to do in order to have a better life. Like, I have met so many people who have gone stagnant and depressed and stuff like that, and I didn't even realize it until I had experienced myself. And then trying to come out of that, and you realize, oh crap, man, everybody in the world has mental issues and is depressed. Like, everybody. Very few people are not. Right? Think about that. It's kind of crazy to think, but almost everybody has some sort of like childhood trauma or some sort of mental issue or some kind of like issue that happened to them in the past that has them in a mental state that is not exactly, I mean, I can't say that you would ever be in a perfect mental state. That I don't think that ever could exist. But a lot of people are a lot worse off than they realize or know. And then I don't think like people realize how crazy the rest of the world really is. I mean, once you kind of understand your own crazy, then you start really seeing it out of the rest of the world. All right, above my pay grade, $1.99. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for the inspiration to start my own channel. Well, I'm glad you did, man. Above my pay grade. Go check it out. Let's find out what that's all about. All right, gotta run. Cheers, blessing all. Thanks, Simon. Well, thank you, man. That was cool. Yeah, see a source code. All right. Let's see, go back down here. Why do you think Peter Schiff is wrong and the Fed won't capitulate and pivot? I don't want to say Peter Schiff is wrong, right? Peter Schiff is by far an awesome economist. I mean, I learned so much from Peter Schiff. He was like the guy that I would follow like every single day when I would get off of work. I would try and find Peter Schiff videos. So I'm not saying Peter Schiff is wrong. Peter Schiff he's an incredible economist, and he has been saying negative things about the Federal Reserve ever since I could ever possibly have ever remembered listening to him. Like, he has never said anything positive about the Fed. Not that I would expect him to, right? I don't. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily positive coming from the Fed or that he should speak positively about the Fed. I don't think any of that stuff out there, right? Here's the thing. At the end of the day, his information is top notch. He knows how this thing works. Like, he knows. He's also a gold salesman. Right? Now, I don't want to discredit him in any way, shape, or form because his information is top notch, and I appreciate everything that he has ever done for me, because I don't think I would be in this channel doing this right now if it wasn't for Peter Schiff. So I hold him the highest gratitude that I can. Like, I mean, I am very thankful for him and everything that he has done. But that's the case, right? I mean, he's a gold salesman. That's what he sells. And so if you're selling something, then there's no way that you're going to have information that discredits the idea of buying gold, right? If that's what you're trying to sell. So is he pushing the information to say, hey, this is like, leading us down a particular path that to get you to do something? Is he being persuasive, right? And why is he being persuasive? Doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, take the information, what he is saying, and the facts that he is putting into it, and you use that information to make that decision for yourself. Now, again, I don't want to discredit Peter Schiff. I think he's an awesome guy, and I can't wait to meet him, and I hope he isn't offended by the things that I say. But I'm trying to be incredibly honest about this because I don't want to sugarcoat things, right? But that's the case. I mean, I am a salesman. It takes one to know one, right? I recognize these tactics. So again, like, he's not wrong at all, right? But this is what I believe. I think the Federal Reserve will pivot at some point, but it's going to be far beyond what anybody else is anticipating, right? They're going to wait till they have that average inflation rate at 2%. A lot of people say that they're not going to have the ability to do that. A lot of people said that the government would never be able to afford interest rates that were higher. Here we are today, right? So I'm not trying to say that they don't do it, that they ain't got it right. I'm just saying these are my opinions on it. And that's the reason why I believe that, things are going to end up the way they are. Not your problem, $1.99. Funny you say that. I'm cleaning the kitchen. Right? So my wife has a channel, I mean, where she does the dishes every day. Like that was her inspiration. She was just like, because the dishwasher was just terrible, right? So we have this old dishwasher that came with the house, and it doesn't do a very good job. And so she does the dishes, and she's always kind of been like, oh, dishes again, kind of thing. And I was like, you got to stop thinking about it like that. Like, make a channel out of it, do something. I bet you could have like a channel that people would watch if you just did the dishes every single day. It would be like an ASMR kind of thing. So for her own inspiration to do the dishes every day, she posts a video about it. So like that's kind of like her encouragement to post a video every day on YouTube and to do the dishes. And she just, whether it's just a handful of dishes or a bunch of them after a party or something like that. That's what her channel is about. Well, that encourages her, right? That it gives her something to do every day, and the dishes are, always something that is like done. Like it's like after dinner, they're always cleaned up and their video gets posted. So anyway, moving on. uh, After Dark 682, thank you very much for the $5. Very nice of you. All right, awesome comment, Mike. What did Mike say? I sell wisdom. I'm completely overstocked right now. Yeah. The current rally was needed to clear out the shorts before the main crash. Yeah, I could see something like that. Like I said, I mean, you're gonna find extreme moves during this. Like, even Peter Schiff, like we were talking about it earlier, he was the one who said it many times. That there is like some of the biggest rallies you'll find are happening during a bear market. What's her channel? My wife needs to watch. It's called Dishes Every Day. And so give some thumbs up. Yeah, 370 up in here. I'm going to be out here for probably another, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes or so. And then we are going to go and head off and do some stuff this afternoon. Labor of love. Let's see here. Where's a good question? I will be Scrooge kind of Christmas for many. Oh, it will be a Scrooge kind of Christmas for many. Pain hasn't even started. Nope, it really hasn't. Where's Michael's comment? I gotta find this thing. Is that the one? People keep talking about it. Oh, so many comments, I can't find it. Well, the good news is that rates are up and up on plain old savings and CDs, so at least bank cash isn't just evaporating now. Yeah, and that will encourage more people to start saving if they can find the available money to save. And like I said, they put themselves at the end of the line now, and at the end of the month, they don't have enough money to save anything. So really, even though there's a good savings rate, they can't take advantage of it. It's like I said, during like the major recession, you have a downturn, everything goes on sale, and the only people who can take advantage of it are the people who are sitting in cash, and that's usually the rich. It's like harvest season, and the rich get to, take advantage of all their investments that they put out there that people built up. Like, God, I sound so funny when I say this, but like I think about the rich putting money out there. They're like, here, we'll put all this money out there and you all borrow that money. All right. And then when you borrow that money, go and build some beautiful things. And now that you got the beautiful things built, what we're going to do is we're going to take away your capabilities to be able to make the payments on those beautiful things. And when you lose it, we're going to buy it up for pennies on the dollar. So thanks for building those big, beautiful things for pennies on the dollars for us. That's what I really feel that the rich do. Like something very similar to that. All right. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. What's your favorite lumberyard? My favorite lumberyard? The one I work at. Okay, UE. How can people say a strong dollar is the death of the dollar? Am I missing something? Yes, the strong dollar is going to be the death of the dollar. That is exactly right. And yeah, that's hard to imagine, right? That's when I say, when you hear people saying the dollar is stronger than anything that anybody had ever possibly imagined, that everybody is stupid if they're not in the dollars, get out of the dollar. When you hear people saying that you should be in the dollar, right? And that the cabbie, the taxi driver, the guy, the dude down at the lumber yard, right? He's telling you to get into the dollar and hold on to the dollar and be totally into the dollar, right? That's when you want to get out. Now, I say the guy down at the lumber yard, I'm not really necessarily talking about myself, but I'm talking when everybody is saying it, when they're like the hyperinflation scenario is not even remotely in existence, that strong dollar, best currency in the world, should be in the dollar. When you're hearing this dollar, 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 get the hell out of the dollar, right? That's when you want to get out. Now, why? The strong dollar is going to be the death of the dollar because what is happening is that all around the world there is a demand for the Federal Reserve's liabilities. Okay? Think about it. That's the way the Federal Reserve says it. How much money are you going to create? How far are you going to expand your balance sheet? They ask the Federal Reserve. They say it depends on how much demand for our liabilities exist. And that is a very interesting question, right? Or statement to make. When it comes to the dollar and the demand for dollar around the world, if you really want to know some information about this stuff, there's two people you should watch, right? Brent Johnson, and you should watch Jeff Snyder. These are the two guys who are going to explain it best of anybody out there. Now, what you have is dollar debt that is due around the world. Nations, corporations, entities all over the place have written debts in dollars. They're due in dollars. And these dollars are not part of anything that has to do with the United States. It doesn't have anything to do with our government, doesn't have anything to do with our banking system. And so now these contracts that have been written that are due in dollars, they get used as if they are dollars, right? Even though they're not dollars. So think about how much is being used like dollars that doesn't actually exist in dollars. Now, when these debts become due and they are not rolled over into new debts, the actual dollars need to be produced in order to pay these debts off. And nobody knows how much needs to be there. The demand for the Fed's liabilities, it depends on how much is there. And since the demand for the Fed's liabilities is a completely obscured shadow market, nobody knows where it needs to be at. So at some given point, there could be a chance where there would be a huge demand for dollars as these debts come due and they're not rolled over into new debts and they're not being used as currency, then the demand for dollars could explode as there's not enough dollars out there in the system to cover all that debt and to be used as if it was dollars, because that's what these contracts are being used as today. Does that make sense? Like, the demand for dollars could grow so big, it makes me wonder if the Federal Reserve could even print at a pace fast enough to cover it. I mean, that's how bad it could get. And when that happens, get into property, get into material possessions, get into gold, silver, whatever it is, but get the hell out of the dollar, because that is the end of the game. All right, when it gets to that point. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what it is that you should be doing at that point. I see that day coming. And if it does get to that point, that's probably where things are going to be shifting into central bank digital currencies. All right. All right, Jeremiah, thank you so much for the $5. If the market didn't react to the Fed's forward guidance last year, would the Fed have to raise rates way higher in this Fed fund cycle? Yes, I do believe that. In fact, I do believe had they started raising the rates without the forward guidance, that they would have caused taper tantrum and that the markets would have been all pissed off about it. But because they were like, hey, yo, we're going to be doing this in the future, just to let you know, better do something about that. The markets did. They got prepared. And then when the Fed did something about it and they actually raised the rates, they hardly reacted at all to that because they were already in position to deal with the Fed's forward guidance from the forward guidance. So yeah, it definitely was able to push that narrative out there that this is what we're about ready to do, guys, and get prepared for it. And they did. And so there was no shock and awe event that took place. They weren't like, oh my God, look what the Fed is doing. They're trying to kill us, whatever. And they were like, no, guys, we're going to do this. We're gonna let you know plenty ahead. So, go ahead and relax, just get in position, no problems. Yeah. All right, when the dollar dumps, it will be quick. I don't think there will be time to buy deals. They will collapse dollar midway through. I agree. That's why I'm saying when you hear everybody saying get into the dollar is the best place you want to be. Don't ever think like everybody should be holding dollars, saving dollars, right? And I mean, you hear this across the board, you hear it all over the mainstream, you hear the cabbie talking about it. Bail. Bail out. That's your opportunity to get out, right? And then once you are out, I mean, a lot of people say you would rather be, 10 years too early and 1 minute too late or whatever. On that case, your timing is going to be what is happening out there in society and you watching it. Like, that's it. There is nobody going to jump up and say, hey, now's the perfect time for you to do this, right? Because you're making that decision on your own at the time that it is occurring, right? It's like protecting your rights. Right? There ain't no little green guy going to pop out and say, hey, man, I think your rights are being infringed upon. You probably ought to do something about that. No, it's up to you to protect them at the time that that's happening. Like, it's up to you to remain silent or for you to protect them at the time that it's happening. That's it. I mean, you could go back and try and deal with it, but by that time it's too late. So same thing with money. It's like you can't go back and change your decisions, Do you get my BAT tips from the Brave browser? I will go and look. I don't check, but I remember setting that up, so I will go and look. A great example of why usury used to be banned. I finally caught a live stream. Well, right on, Andrew. Thank you for being here. Andrew, what is that? Basting 6? I'm going to be out here for probably another, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so. Physical gold and silver can be tricky right now. Dealers can't even get the stuff reliably. Yeah. And I don't ever really pay attention to what spot price is on a daily basis. I just keep stacking. It doesn't really matter to me, what the price is. I used to really kind of care about what the average price and, doing all that other stuff. That to me is less important. I don't even know what my average price on silver is anymore. To me, it's more critical to have it and to stack it just to have the availability of it in case of an emergency or just that insurance policy to have something outside of that third-party claim. If you're not stacked, this isn't advice, but this is what I did. If I was to be in a position where I didn't have any, what I would do right now is I would pick up a piece or two once a month and just slowly start collecting. You're going to find at some point there will be a buying opportunity. When the recession kicks in, everything goes on sale. People are trying to get into dollars, right? They're trying to get out of every asset that they have. They'll get out of Bitcoin, they'll get out of gold, silver, they'll get out of properties, they'll get out of stocks, they'll get out of bonds, they'll get out of everything to try and get a hold of the dollars because they're trying to cover their debts. That's the problem with it. Now, if the expansion or the stimulus or the low interest rates allowed for more money to come into the system that people could take advantage of, then that wouldn't be the case, right? But that's what's going to happen during the recession, is that people are going to be trying to get the cash that they need in order to pay their debts, and they will sell whatever assets they have, including Bitcoin, silver, gold, stocks, whatever it is. That's your buying opportunity. That's when you want to get in. Now, I can't, say when that's going to happen or to what level or when you should do it. I dollar cost average. So timing the market is almost impossible. I mean, I tried doing stock trading and being a day trader kind of thing with quick. I didn't do very well with it, right? I mean, I should try it again. I did, but at the time I didn't do well. Dollar cost averaging has done wonderful. By a little bit all the time, you don't even really know what your average is, and you end up, stacking up. So that's how I do things. All right. Anybody have personal experience with regional or local barter internet network? With barter? I used to do it all the time. When I had the hobby farm, I bartered all kinds of stuff. So I used to raise chickens. I would raise Cornish cross rocks. And we had a little, fairly decent garden. My wife actually is quite the vegetable gardener. So she would grow quite a bit too, but we would raise these birds and trade them, and I would trade it for other things. The neighbor, he raised pigs, and so between the two of us, we always had pork, he always had chicken. We would trade it for all kinds of stuff, and we used Facebook mostly, Facebook trade site, buy and sell sites, and just put out trading stuff out there. And yeah, we had no problem with it at all. The internet was easy for doing it. In fact, we started up a group called Clatsop Organic Farmers Outlet for people to just trade on, or buy and sell or whatever you wanted to. And it was fairly popular for a while there while we were doing it. But anyway, yeah, barter's easy. Once you kind of build up the network and the community of it, it's actually really easy to do. There's really nothing to it. And the internet makes it super simple. All right. What's a pound of good beef worth in Mercury dimes? I have no idea. Quite cool. ER Facebook, maybe Patreon. Gold and silver is real money. There is a reason Russia and China are still accumulating it. Yeah, well, when you're going to go through a transition from one side to another where you're going to dump fiat or fiat's going to crash, is there anything else out there? I mean, is there anything? Like, there's nothing really else out there that's going to be able to, transport and store your wealth. I mean, you can try and take over property and land, but that's, something you have to fight for, and then you're stationary. There's really nothing else out there that is like gold and silver. So again, it's like insurance policy. John Ferris, yeah, but we are not even so much a nation now and more like an economic zone. I don't really care to do anything for an economic zone. I'm not sure what that means. What if government forced citizens to sell their gold at well below market? Okay. Let's think about that for a second. Why would the government have the people selling their gold, and where would they sell it to? To the government? And why would the government do this? Like, they've done it in the past, right? Why did they do it in the past? It's because we had a gold standard, and they needed that gold to back the money. So if the government was to go back into a gold confiscation kind of thing where they were going to take the gold, they'd probably be doing it to back the money again. That means we would be going back to a gold standard. I just don't see that happening. So unless there's some other unconstitutional reason, which I don't even think that would be a constitutional reason, but unless there was some other outside of the constitutional reason to do it, like straight up thievery, then they don't have an excuse to confiscate gold unless they were going to back the currency with it again. So I just don't see that happening. I just don't think it will. If you take something that somebody wants, gold would be no different than drugs or sex or guns or anything else out there that people like and want. If you make it illegal, you're going to cause the price of it to go way up, way up. And it doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be something that somebody wants. Marijuana is the perfect example of that. Here in Oregon, marijuana practically spills out on the ground. Nobody cares about it, right? And the price of it is like in the toilet. It isn't worth anything, right? The only time it was ever worth anything is when it was illegal, because it gave it risk, and risk is value. So once you took the risk away, there was no value left to it. In fact, I talked to these dispensary owners, and most of them are selling off. Like, they don't even want it anymore. It's a very difficult business to be in. So I don't know, like, a lot of people argue with me about it. It's just the experience that I have seen out there. And, being in this state as long as I have, nobody cares about weed. If it was illegal, that's what gave it money. After that, nobody cares. And so take something somebody wants, make it illegal, watch the price go up. Hey, maybe your wife could do a canning video. Seems on topic at the moment. Yeah, we can do another one. Now, we've done it in the past. We did a canning video. We actually went to the store, bought chicken, went home, cut that up, made, canned it all up, and, jarred it. And I think we've probably finished off the last of that, but we ate all that chicken up. And it was a good video. You can find it in my past stuff, but that was a good one, and maybe we'll do it again, because it's been a while since we've done any canning. And that's something that I told people to get prepared with. Like, you can prepare with all the food you want. Like, you can grab all the stuff, have, like, a 6-year supply of food. Doesn't really matter if you have to move, if you have to change locations, because packing all that with you is going to be very difficult. However, if you had a store of lids and rings and jars, if you come across food, you can can that up and preserve it. And you can preserve quite a bit of food over the time, right? Even if you wanted year's supply of it or many years supply. Having the ability to do that is really what I feel is going to be critical going into the future, especially if you have a food shortage, or in this case, in our country, we're going to have a food expense problem. We're not going to have a food shortage. The shortage is going to take place around the world, and that's going to cause the food here in the United States to skyrocket. It's going to feel like a food shortage, but it's just going to be a food expense problem. But it doesn't really matter if you have 100 pounds of something that just all of a sudden gets brought to your attention. It was just like, hey, my buddy just caught 100 pounds of fish. This person just harvested 100 pounds of carrots. Doesn't matter really what it is. If you have lids and rings and jars and a pressure cooker, you can preserve that stuff for years. And that is a skill that not a lot of people really have. And it's not that hard to do. So if you practice now and got the supplies for it, if that event does come, you're prepared. You're ready to go. And that's, like, to me, is probably way more critical than anything else as far as like prepping and survival goes. Tulips, baby. I'm cash, gold, silver, Bitcoin, and getting into real estate. That's all nighter. Yeah, that's me. I'm not in I'm a little bit in real estate with the house, but that's like my living residence. I want to get into investment properties at some point. Aren't they taking canning rings off the market? I don't know. I hear, like, now my store, I work at a hardware store. We have a supply of cannings. We have canning supplies. We have a decent one. I mean, we had a lot of it. And people were coming in going, holy crap, you guys got it. You're the only people in town. And it was just like, well, we seem to have a lot of it. Like, whether we just loaded up at the right time, because we always load up on canning supplies right towards the end of, right in the middle of summer, because, when people are harvesting. And so we had a nice supply of them. I personally, I bought up a bunch of lids and rings. And now we have jars, but I bought a lot of lids and rings because that's what you need in order to preserve it with, right? That's like the critical part. Like the jars too, but you can reuse the jars. You can't really reuse the lids. You can reuse the rings, but the lids are like a one-time shot. So getting a supply of lids is really like, the absolute critical thing, because you have to have those in order to seal those jars up. But the jars, as long as you don't crack the edges or chip them or anything, they can be reused as many times as you want. All right. Let's see here. People will starve with food on the grocery store shelves. Yeah, and that's why I think that they're going to be able to introduce a central bank digital currencies as easily as they can, is because once people go hungry, they'll jump on anything. Like, they will be like, whatever, give it to me. Is it an EBD card? Is it a line that I have to stand in? Whatever you got to give me in order for me to eat, I'll take it. And it's going to be a super easy introduction to the central bank digital currencies. They'll just be like, hey, just download this app and you're good to go. That's that. Seeds will be gold. Yeah, I think seeds will be worth a lot of money. If during that time, especially if we run into a major distribution shortage where, like, people are just not distributing as many vegetable seeds and stuff, you're gonna have to find people who have been heirlooming seeds, like, saving them from generations. And those are not the same type of seeds that you buy from the grocery or buy from the store. Most of those are hybrids. Like, they're seeds that have been not genetically modified, but seeds that have been hybrid to produce high abundance fruit, like high abundance beans or whatever it is that you have. You take those and replant them, and it's not necessarily the same plant that you once had. Now, there are heirlooming seeds that are out there that will continue to produce the same, high harvesting plants, but there's other ones out there that don't produce the same plant that you had taken the seed from. I mean, as far as like the abundance and the style of plant that it is. Squash is a really good one of that. 5-finger discount in effect. Thank you for the reply. I'm just curious how people are positioning themselves going into harder economic downturn coming. We all got to figure it out. I mean, we got to run on instincts, and I mean, I think about like keeping my expenses low, keeping debt at a minimal, trying to keep, a higher savings right now, not necessarily looking towards investments, like the place to put money, but looking more for the opportunity that is coming from that. So, I mean, it's somewhat of the same thing, but like it's more of like, I'm positioning in the cash for a future event, not for one that's like now. So those are the things that I'm doing to prepare. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else one could really do. I mean, you could continue to like refine everything, and just like have your bug out bags and have your, all your generators and lights and stuff like that. But that's a hobby thing. And like, if you're getting into hobby kind of stuff, that's different. That's like, that's actually trying to have fun with the whole prepping mentality. I'm not necessarily trying to have fun. I'm just trying to be in a good position. All right. I actually sold my equity because they were in my name and I may be looking at a lawsuit, so I need to look poor on paper. Yeah. Your buddy Owen Benjamin has become buddies with that artist formerly known as Kanye West. Oh, yeah? That's cool. I need to talk with Owen. I've never actually spoken with Owen Benjamin before. But I hear he gives me a lot of shout outs and he's a fan of the channel, and I really do have to, make contact with him and speak with him. It would be fun to do like a first time conversation, record like, a video conversation with him to just see what comes up. Because it seems like we have a lot of fans that cross over. Uh, So he's great. You should. All right. Yeah. I mean, I know. And I'm supposed to be getting like internet service out at the house. That's one of the reasons why I'm still doing this from the car and I really haven't done like set up a studio or anything yet. Because really what I'd like to do is set up a studio to do interviews from instead of doing them from the car. That way it can be, a little bit more, have a better construction, being constructed better. I don't know, just like it seems trying to do it from the car is difficult. I had my buddy end up recording videos from his apartment, doing like Zoom recordings and stuff, which is okay. It works out, but I think we could just do it better if I had like a studio office thing kind of going for at least the interviews. I still want to do Uneducated Economist from the Toyota though. Yeah. Well, Benjamin found you is the reason I found you. Well, right on. Yeah, in fact, I was down in Galveston taking they had these Segway tours. And the guy, he was looking at my shirt because I had my hoodie on that said Uneducated Economist. He goes, "Hey, I know you." He goes, "I've seen your channel." And he said, "Yeah, I follow Owen Benjamin and he talks about you. And so anyway, yeah, it was kind of cool to be down in Galveston and see, and, have the guy recognize me and then tell me how he found me through Owen Benjamin. Have your guests sit shotgun. Yeah. Wow, big time. Don't forget about us little guys. Yeah, I'll never feel like I'll never feel big time. Like I don't like even running with like, George down at the Rebel Capitalist and, hanging out like meeting awesome economists like Doug Casey and, famous people like Robert Kiyosaki and, doing all that, taking, shaking hands and just joking around and just talking like regular life stuff with these people. I don't feel big time. I really do just feel like the guy down at the lumberyard. Like that's who I feel like I am. I mean, um, I look forward to the next speaking engagements or even like, I mean, I kind of see myself one day like being in front of a huge crowd, like 5, 6, 7,000 people kind of audience or something that's just like really out there. But I just see myself as just the regular guy. Like I don't, I can't like really see myself outside of having like a 9 to 5 job. Like I like getting up every day and going to work and stuff like that because that's what's normal to me and that's what feels good. It feels like I have a regular life. The YouTube channel and stuff, it's a nice hobby, and that's the way I like to consider it because, when when I was standing in line, or not standing in line, when I was standing and I had a line in front of me of people who wanted to meet me and shake my hand, you know how overwhelming that is? And to have people like come up to me and say, dude, thank you for everything you've done. You've helped me like understand the economy in ways that I never thought of before, and people never explained before. You know, you've really given me a much better understanding of things, and I can't believe it. Like, you've inspired me to do all these things. Do you know how like overwhelming of a feeling that is to have people do that? To think like, man, just a few years ago, there wasn't people who would even give me the time of day. Like, I wasn't anything. Like, nobody gave a shit, right? And now here they are, like, thanking me and telling me how much they appreciate, you know, the work that I've done and stuff. And like, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, this isn't me. This isn't like, I'm not the guy who stands there and shakes people's hands and, you know, has like this celebrity status thing happening. Like, I mean, I'm not that guy, right? And I just don't know if I'll ever will be that guy. Now, I want to be up on stage, and I want to be able to do that presentation and really, like, you know, thrill the crowd, or have them like say, man, that was really amazing, you know, the stuff that you say, and it was very entertaining and all that stuff. Like, I want all those things in my life, but still at the end of the day, I'm just an average dude. I'm just the average guy, you know. All right, you can take the guy out of the lumber yard, but you can't take the lumber yard out of the guy. And that's it too, you know. I mean, you know, I could be doing all kinds of stuff. I could make, you know, try and make 2-3 videos a day and try and make this tons of money on the internet and just push the idea and all that other stuff. But I don't think that's what makes the channel. I think what makes the channel is what I'm doing, is like living life and trying to figure it out, and you guys get to watch the ride. YouTube has given me a chance that I didn't think I was ever going to have. Like, I just kind of figured I was going to be a broke ass for the rest of my life and just trying to keep off the streets. That's what I thought my life was going to be. And now I don't feel that way. Like, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I have goals. I feel like I have worthiness, you know, to more than just like trying to provide for my family. I feel like I have something that's beyond that. And you guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough for helping me with this, you know. All right, you and Owen have been talking about similar issues for a long time now. It would be epic stream. Yeah, it's got to happen. It's got to happen soon. You know, you talk about it so much, everybody does, and so it's just procrastinating going to battle. Gotta do burpees while laying flooring. Times are changing. People want truth, and you're wearing those pants. Yeah, he is live streaming at 1 p.m. if you want to hit him up. Oh, is he? Right on. Well, maybe I will. What time is it? It's getting on to 1 o'clock here pretty soon, because I know I have to go. Um, yeah, let me see. I got things going on, but maybe I might find some time to do that. All right. Let's see. You have somewhat of a Southern Cali accent to country Southern accent. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. I didn't really grow up down there. My dad was in the Coast Guard, so we traveled up and down the West Coast. I was born in Northern California. We spent some time down in, you know, San Francisco Bay Area. My mom lived in Ventura County, so I spent some time down there, but mostly it's been up here in the Pacific Northwest, so especially this corner of Oregon, like the Astoria area. Why couldn't the witch get pregnant? Why? Wofokin just banned Owen, so he'll be there too live. Reading here, the ghost had a hollow weenie. It's terrible. All right. If it's okay with Martin, let me see, where is he? Okay, even if the interest rates go up and the dollar goes down, won't it be still a net loss? I don't think the dollar is going to go down if interest rates go up. I think the dollar is going to continue to strengthen if interest rates go up. So what I think. I think the dollar will lose value if the interest rates continue to stay down or go negative. I think that's what would cause the dollar to lose strength. So if the interest rates continue to rise, I think that's going to continue to strengthen the dollar. Inside joke. Martin is CEO of Rokefin. Oh, I get it. uh, Forrest Gump. Awesome is as awesome does. um, Mortgage rates must go up to control prices in home sales. All right. Well, the prices don't, I mean, in order to control the mortgage of, right now, the Federal Reserve does not allow there to be like a free market in the mortgages, right? I mean, right now, what we have is the Federal Reserve participating inside of this mortgage market. Whether they are dumping mortgages or buying mortgages, that's still a participation inside of it. There's no free market that's finding where these mortgages should be as far as interest rates go. If that was to take place, I mean, then we would never know exactly where mortgages should be. But, I mean, who knows? But in any case, it was the Federal Reserve acting inside of the mortgage market that caused the prices to rise as high as they have. Whether or not the free market can continue to support that is another question. Love your insights. Keep on letting us know what's really going on. Well, I'll at least give you my opinion on it. I don't. I'm really happy to have met you here on YouTube and also through our mutual friend, and then in person at the Rebel Capitalist Live. You're a great dude, Simon. Yeah, I totally agree with you, all-nighter, man. It was great meeting you, and yeah, through mutual friends, and I'm sure one day we will meet again, so I'm looking forward to that day. All right, keep your old socks with holes. Really? I just threw one away today. I can go fish it out. It's sitting right on top. You use your canning jars if you have to move. Use upper part of a sock over the jar. Tie it and off the foot part with your hole in it to cover the every jar so they don't clink. Oh, I see. Use the sock as like a cushion for your jars. I get it. Yeah, that's smart. Till what time will the bond prices keep going down? Until the Federal Reserve reverses course. I mean, I would imagine that so long as they are unwinding their balance sheet, that they are probably not being a buyer in the market like they once were, then you're probably not going to have a whole lot of investors who are encouraged to jump in it as well. What it's going to take is major turmoil around the world to force the people into the safe haven, and then they'll move into the bond market. So either one, the Fed pivots, which I don't see happening, or we see some extreme moves happening around the world that causes people to be fearful of their sovereign currencies and move into the dollar, which generally means they're moving into the U.S. Treasuries. So the British pound is down, the euro is down, dollar is up, and interest rates are up. Is this a good time to be in cash and maybe in foreign currencies? That's what I think. I mean, I personally am not interested in buying into anything right now. I mean, if anything, like, maybe dollar cost averaging into silver and gold and some cryptos. But as far as like stocks, bonds, real estate, all that stuff, like, I am not excited about going into those markets at this time. Like, I'm looking for buying opportunities coming into the future, which would mean that you would want to be in cash at this point. Now, that's just my personal opinion on it. There's other people who don't want to sit around waiting for a position for their cash. They want to be in position today, right now, like yesterday. And if that's the case, then you're going to have to know where it is that you need to put your money towards something that is going to be a downturning market that's going to go up. I'm not one to predict that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm much more into the idea that I would rather be buying into real estate when I'm confident that there's very little downside risk taking place, and then take advantage of that. Like, that's the way I would want to go. That's what I look for. Things that have very little downside risk. Silver is one of those, right? Silver has very little downside risk to me. Even if it was to drop to $15 an ounce, that's still, or even less than that, that's still like not that bad if you're dollar cost averaging. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not the end of the world. So, and there's no chance of it going to zero. Same thing with kind of like real estate. The only problem with real estate, in my opinion, is that it's not as easy to get back out of. Like with silver, you can sell pieces of it. You can't sell off a piece of your house unless you take out like a home equity loan kind of thing. So, it's all about you and what you want to do. I work in tech sales and I'm starting to see layoffs everywhere. Definitely feel that there's a storm brewing. Yeah. Good idea. I use the dryer. Wow, everybody's talking about canning with the socks. Well, I'm glad that was a good hint. Yeah, I'm going to tell my wife about it if she didn't catch that. All right. I'm feeling cash. Dollar isn't going to go bust overnight. I don't think so either. BRIC emerging markets are better shape. Interest rate hikes will hurt US a lot more. Um, yeah, I mean, don't I do agree with the BRICS nations are going to rise. They are going to have a very impactful position at some point in the future, but I don't really see that happening in a time in which that I would want to be prepared for that today. Like that's like a very long-term thought for me. Now, what I do have a thought of today is that the dollar is going to go stronger into the future, and then at some point here in the future, I'm going to be able to position myself, right, into a better spot than I am today with cash. It's going to be difficult to recognize where you need to be at the time that it needs to happen. That's part of this channel is trying to figure that out, right? In knowing when that opportunity is going to be there. But that's what I'm looking for. I mean, there's certain signs out there that tell me, hey, we're moving away from the recession and that we're going to be moving upward again. One of those things is like following the 30-year, 5-year, right? That was what Alan Greenspan said was the indicator for him. That is the widening spread between that is corporate management's willingness to invest. Well, I'm not the smartest dude in the world, but if corporate management is willing to invest, then I should be too, right? So when I see that spread starting to widen, that's going to be very encouraging for me to say, hey, time's now, better do it. And so those are the type of things that we look for, right? What's up, Haida? Yeah, all-nighter Hider is like super popular on this channel. In fact, my mom, she follows like everybody. She follows George Gammon, Jason Hartman, like Lynette Zhang. She follows everybody, and all-nighters on everybody's channel. All-nighter follows everybody. Because he's the man. That's why. All right, I'm on my way to CDMX for Dia de los Muertos. Oh, golly. For De las Muertos. I cannot say it right now. I cannot speak. For Day of the Dead, right? And scout out some second home Plan B real estate. Right on. I used to keep up with all the economics and politics, but I left it all behind after they screwed over Ron Paul in the day. Big clown show, all orchestrated and non-organic. Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I did the exact same thing when it came to politics. In fact, I gave up on studying money for a while there too. I just gave up on everything. It was because I was falling into so many conspiracy theories. Like I wasn't navigating my research very well, and so anyway, I ended up diving into things that I probably really shouldn't have gone deep into, and it just really just is more depressive than anything else. So I gave up everything for a while, and then when I stepped back into it, I said, okay, just follow the money. Don't look at anything else. That's why I never talked about the whole pandemic with coronavirus and stuff. I never got into any of that detailed stuff. I mean, I talked a little bit about the impact it had on like restaurants and stuff like that, but I didn't get into the conspiracy theory part of things of it because, for one, I just don't care. Like it's all BS to me, and I'm not going to listen to a bunch of hoopla on TV talking about the way other people should be thinking. I'm just not into it. So anyway, I think I need to be jetting out of here because I am supposed to go meet up with my wife and try and get a haircut later. Look at that. I got this nasty mop going here. how long this stuff is. So anyway, I'm going to get that short and look professional again. So I'm going to jet out. Anyone last question anybody has? I'm glad I met your mom too. Yeah, mom loves you all nighter. I mean, she did. She does. She talks about you and how she sees your comments all the time. So, all right, peace out. Do you ever use a vacuum sealer for your canning? We have done some vacuum packing before when we wanted to do some steaks and stuff to just have them in the freezer. But no, for the most part, we just do canning. That's the only thing we do. Much love, everyone. Yeah, you too, all-nighter. You have a great day. He's going to the retirement home where he lives. All right. Jose, thank you very much for the $1.99. GDP plus percent means no recession, right? GDP plus percent. I'm going to have to think about that for a second. Why is there gold fringe around a military flag? And that's something else that we should discuss because the position of the flag, what it represents, how it hangs. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, including that gold fringe. A lot of it has to do with whether or not you're at war, the peacetime, stuff like that. Thanks for the content, UE. Have a great weekend. Alrighty, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this almost 2 hours. You have been so generous with the super chats, wonderful comments. Thank you so much for hitting that like button while we're out here on the live stream. You guys are great. And what else can I say? Join the live. What am I trying to say? Go and check out the podcast. I'm trying to push that podcast a little bit more and get that a little bit more popular. We're getting about 500 listens to it on every episode. I repost pretty much all the content that we have, including the interviews, if it's allowed, that I do with other people. I post those on the podcast as well. So if you're looking for some of the interviews I do with other people, that's where they end up, a lot of them, if I don't post them on the page itself. So, okay. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know. What's the pod? The pod is called You Guys Let Me Know. And you can always find links to just about everything I do over at my website, uneducatedeconomist.com. So, all right. Catch you guys later.